Comparative politics, a core approach to the study of politics. Introduction, defining comparative politics. Comparative politics is a foundational subfield within political science that focuses on the systematic study and comparison of political systems, institutions, processes, and behaviors across different countries and regions. The central objective is to identify patterns of similarity and difference in political life, and to explain why political outcomes vary across time and space. Unlike international relations, which studies interactions among states, comparative politics primarily looks within countries, asking how internal dynamics such as institutions, culture, ideology, and leadership shape governance and policy outcomes. It is both descriptive and analytical, and straddles the line between normative concerns. What is desirable and empirical investigation? What is observable and measurable? 2. Core questions and topics in comparative politics. Comparative politics addresses a broad spectrum of research questions. These range from the formation of governments and constitutions to the dynamics of political participation, economic policy, and social justice. Key thematic areas include 2.1. Regime types: democracy versus authoritarianism. A central concern in comparative politics is the classification and analysis of different regime types. Researchers explore the origins, performance, and durability of democracies and authoritarian regimes. Questions: what conditions foster democratization? Why do some authoritarian regimes persist while others collapse? How do hybrid regimes function? Case example: the Arab Spring movements prompted comparative analysis of why some states, e.g., Tunisia, transitioned toward democracy, while others, e.g., Syria, descended into conflict. 2.2. Government structures: parliamentary versus presidential systems. Comparative politics also evaluates how different governmental frameworks influence political accountability, stability, and policy-making efficiency. Parliamentary systems, e.g., the UK, India, typically feature a fusion of executive and legislative powers, promoting party discipline and collective responsibility. Presidential systems, e.g., the US, Brazil, offer separation of powers, direct elections, and fixed terms. Questions: which system better promotes democratic stability? How do institutional arrangements shape executive-legislative relations? 2.3. Electoral systems and party systems. Electoral rules, e.g., plurality, proportional representation. Mixed systems have profound impacts on party systems, voter behavior, and political representation. Questions: how do electoral systems influence the number of viable political parties? What role do parties play in structuring political competition and voter alignment? Examples: Duverger's law posits that plurality systems tend to produce two-party systems, while proportional systems encourage multi-party configurations. 2.4. Constitutional design and state building. Comparative scholars investigate how constitutions distribute power, protect rights, and shape national identities. They also examine processes of state formation, especially in post-conflict and post-colonial contexts. Questions: what constitutional arrangements best accommodate ethnic or religious diversity? How do newly independent states establish political legitimacy and institutional capacity? 3. Methodologies in comparative politics. One of the defining features of comparative politics is its methodological pluralism. It draws on both qualitative and quantitative methods to build theoretical models and test hypotheses. 3.1. Qualitative approaches. These include in-depth case studies, historical institutionalism, interviews, fieldwork, and process tracing. Strengths: rich contextual detail, useful for theory generation, effective for studying rare or complex phenomena. Example: Theda Skocpol's study of revolutions in France, Russia, and China used historical case studies to uncover Structural causes of social revolution. 3.2. Quantitative approaches. These involve large-scale statistical analysis using cross-national datasets, surveys, or public records. Strengths. Identifies broad trends and correlations, allows for hypothesis testing and generalization. Example: studies of voter turnout across OECD countries have used regression analysis to identify the impact of income, education, and institutional variables. 3.3. Most similar and most different systems designs. Most similar systems design, MSSD, compares similar countries with different outcomes to isolate causal factors. Most different systems design, MDSD, compares very different countries with similar outcomes to identify shared causes. 4. Bridging normative and empirical inquiry. While rooted in empirical analysis, comparative politics often addresses normative questions such as: what constitutes a just political order? How can institutions be designed to promote accountability and equity? What lessons can be learned from one country's success and applied to another? This dual function allows comparative politics to inform policy design, democratic reforms, and institutional innovation. 5. Major themes and case applications. 5.1. Welfare states and inequality. Comparative research on welfare regimes. G. Esping Anderson's typology of liberal, conservative, and social democratic states highlights how institutional choices affect income distribution, gender equity, and social mobility. Example: comparing Scandinavian universal welfare models with the market-driven approaches of the United States. 5.2. Federalism and decentralization. Federal systems distribute power across national and subnational levels. Comparative studies assess how federalism impacts conflict resolution, public service delivery, and regional inequality. Example: U.S. German federalism, centralized versus cooperative models of governance. 5.3. Political culture and identity. Culture shapes how people engage in politics and how they view authority, citizenship, and participation. Example: Almond and Verber's The Civic Culture compared political attitudes in 5 countries to explore democratic stability and civic engagement. 5.4. Political transitions and democratization. Comparative politics plays a vital role in studying regime transitions, revolutions, and democratic consolidation. Example: the post-communist transitions of Eastern Europe, or the varied trajectories of African democracies. 6. Comparative politics and globalization. In recent decades, comparative politics has expanded to study transnational dynamics. Topics include policy diffusion, how policies spread across countries, e.g., environmental regulations, education reform, global governance, the role of international institutions in shaping domestic politics, transnational movements, cross-border activism, human rights campaigns, or populist waves. These trends highlight the need to understand political systems not in isolation, but in the context of global interdependence. 7. Leading theories and paradigms in comparative politics. 7.1. Structuralism focuses on how social structures, class, ethnicity, institutions shape political outcomes. Example: Marxist theories of state and class struggle. 7.2. Rational choice theory assumes individuals are utility-maximizing actors and explains politics through strategic interaction. Critique can oversimplify human behavior and neglect cultural institutional factors. 7.3. Institutionalism examines how formal and informal rules shape political behavior. Variants include historical institutionalism, emphasizes path dependency and critical junctures. New institutionalism explores how institutions evolve and influence actors' preferences. 7.4. Cultural approaches study how norms, identities, and symbols influence politics, often used in conjunction with interpretivist methods. 8. Challenges and critiques. 8.1. Data availability and reliability. In many countries, especially authoritarian regimes or fragile states, reliable political data is scarce or distorted. 8.2. Eurocentrism and generalizability. Early comparative politics often used Western Europe as a model, limiting the applicability of its theories to other regions. 8.3. Context, sensitivity, theory building, striking a balance between rich contextual case, knowledge and generalizable theory remains a persistent tension. 9. Impact and relevance in the 21st century. Comparative politics provides essential insights for democratic resilience in the face of populism, conflict prevention through inclusive governance, policy learning from international best practices, understanding authoritarian resurgence in digital authoritarian regimes. Its findings inform development agencies, international organizations, think tanks, and policymakers globally. 10. Conclusion. Comparative politics remains one of the most dynamic and impactful subfields within political science. By investigating the diversity and complexity of political life across nations, it helps scholars and practitioners alike understand how political systems operate, how they succeed or fail, and what models may be adapted or avoided. Its capacity to integrate both empirical rigor and normative reflection makes comparative politics not only a methodological tool set, but also a vital intellectual bridge between understanding the world as it is and imagining how it might be improved.